we have the potential to have so many experiences in our lifetime. But a lot of people, they get stuck in their comfort zone. I mean, some people, they get fortunate that early on in life, they figure out what they want to do, they hone in on it, and they literally stay there. And I wouldn't argue that's necessarily a comfort zone. I think they've just figured out what their calling is in life. And I think just some people get lucky that way. To others, they find their calling later in life. And I say often, sometimes, a lot of the time, it's figuring out what we don't want allows us to finally see what we do. So do we just go through a period in life sometimes of just doing all the wrong things maybe, or just having experiences that don't quite work out? And that's fine. I mean, again, the other side of that is some people beat themselves up about failing at things. It's not failing, it's lessons. We just got to grow, continually grow, evolve. But if you live a full lifespan, so you get to live a fulfilling life all the way through, um, there's so much you can do and experience in that single lifetime, and I think that some people just don't realize the potential in that. I look at my life, and I've been through so much; it's crazy. And I think the thing is, even at like 42, it'll probably surprise people the things you like have experienced, the things I've been through. The struggle, the trauma, the jobs, also anything and everything. It'd be like, I can't believe you've been through. It's like, well, other people would have done too. It's just that we've all got our own life to live, but there's so much potential still ahead. Um, Like I keep talking about my books, for instance, that I am going to be actually working on my next one. I've been putting it off so much, and now I feel a bit more excited to get on with it. So I will be working on another one. But what that does, it sort of like leads me down this path where I feel like there's something bigger to come, and it's something for me to explore. And who knows where it leads? But it's a completely different life to what I've had so far. But at the same time, if that isn't potentially going to happen, so I'll talk about this. Like, if we talk about books, for instance, there's more books to come. There could be collaborations with projects. Who knows what the projects could be? There could be podcasts. It could be public speaking events. You just don't know. Well, that's a different world. I've not done it. It's just breaking the um, foundation for that, really. But let's say there wasn't an opportunity, and let's say I hadn't done my books. I've done warehousing, forklift work. I've worked on a Docklands. I've worked in distribution centers, handled various products. It's like, I've had experiences in career, and I've always learned something new pretty much at nearly the majority of places that I've worked at. So I've got so many different forklifts. I've spoken about that in the past. And yeah, there'll be other machinery that I can learn. But what do I want to do next? And I've been figuring that out, and I've been documenting that quite openly. I've been very transparent with it, where I've turned down job opportunities because in the end, it just didn't feel like it was going to make me happy. A majority of our time in your working life is actually spent at work. And I know some people chase the money, and I get it, but I don't chase money. I just don't. I won't do it. So I won't endorse a product I don't support. I won't do it, even if there's a big money offer on the table. I won't fleece people out of anything. So I won't promote something I don't like. I just won't do it. By extension, I won't put myself in a place that's going to cause me misery. Because why do I want to be miserable? Someone offers you money, but you're going to be miserable. I don't understand the logic in it personally. Because even if you have money, you're still going to feel miserable because you've still got to go and do what causes you misery. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't, my mind don't operate how everybody else's does. Either way, you do something you enjoy. If it's career related, you'll still make some money from it. It's fine. Um, so yeah, there's a few things I've been like in my head, like romanticizing, I guess. I'm not like a naive person. I'm not stupid. I don't think, oh, that be if I say something is it could be possible, or I could say, oh, that could be quite easy. I don't mean it like in a way that's um, negating the training that would be required to do something. It's just I have confidence in myself that I can do it, and I think a lot of the time people will act like something they do is impossible, and I would argue most things in life are not. Yeah, everything not impossible. I always look at things like if you can do it, I can do it. There's potential that I can do it. No, of course I can't do everything, but I've always had that mindset. If you can learn it, I can learn it. Don't act like you're any more special. We're all capable of learning. That's ridiculous. But people like put themselves on pedestals, and it always irks me, to be honest. So I'm looking at jobs at the moment, like career and things. And to be honest, I'm quite comfortable. You give me like, for instance, if we're not talking about professional side in terms of like any sort of like elevation with my work that I do creatively, although I feel like there's still more to come in that sense. Even songwriting, I want to dabble with. I'm not a singer, but I always have like ideas of songs, and I just think it's something I want to. I just want to play with my creativity still. There's a lot to come from me in the future in that regard. But if you're going to just give me like a mundane task, we call it. I don't want to call it that, but we'll call it that. I don't want to be in an engineering facility. I don't like factories. I can't work in them. They're too mundane. They drive me nuts. Some people absolutely love them. For me, I feel like a robot. I don't want to be a robot. So I can't cope in those environments personally. I don't like chaotic environments where there's like management don't know what they're doing. The infrastructure doesn't make sense. And there's always competition within the environment. I don't see the point. Everybody should be working together. So if I feel like there's that, it's like that's destabilizing. Why do I want to be there? I'll go somewhere where it's more structured. So I recently had like an interview, but it tested me on the forklift, for instance. And I had to do test. I was tested on the counterbalance. I spoke about it just recently. Counterbalance and then a flexi truck. I hadn't been on like a flexi bendy truck for about 15 years, and I'd only been on that for maybe 6 months. So it was like, yeah, I'll give it a go again, but I've not been. I did okay, and I think with more time, I would get better and better and better, and it would just become more natural. But this job is literally what I've been calling for. If I'm going to work if I'm going to work on a forklift, then just give me the truck. Give me the truck to do the job, and I can do anything. I can do the loading, I can unload, I can do the trailers, I can do the containers, I can stow stock, I can move stock, I can pick stock, I can do whatever you need me to do with the truck. Just high, low. And this role was literally just forklift work. For the most part, it's just forklift work. But they're having trouble with the workforce not wanting to do bendies, and they need to get people doing the bendy, and everyone's going to have to do it. And your money goes up with that attached to your thing anyway. So I don't mind. Just give me as long as I've got a truck. Now there might be a slight manual work, but I don't think it'd be like a lot, and it's mainly, like I said, mainly forklift. But that gets me round to another side of my life. So sometimes I think it can run its course. It serves a purpose. Do you see yourself doing, like, personally with me? Do I see myself doing it for the rest of my life? Well, I like to push myself and challenge myself. So, no, like I can. I don't mind like dipping in and out. Like, let's go and do some other things, and we can come back to do that. That's fine. But yeah, for the foreseeable future, why not? But then I got to thinking, what do I want to do? I've worked at a dock, so I know what it's like to work on a port, which I think is great. It's dynamic. There's so many opportunities. It feels quite special. And I think people don't realize that when they're applying for jobs, they usually just look local, or they don't think outside the box, whereas I like to think outside the box a bit. And like I say, most people wouldn't even think about working somewhere like that. So they've got to be thinking, I think an airport would be pretty cool. These are experiences. I want to go through life having experiences. Of course, like if my books picked up and everything else picked up and it pushed me in a different direction, I can't, like I talk about it like so many times, I can't be an octopus. I can't be everywhere. I mean, there's potential I could if I wanted to, but I'd rather just be committed to things. So if I'm throwing myself in that direction, I just want to give everything. You can't. It just. I don't think it really wouldn't work because you'd be too drained. You'd be too exhausted if you try and live so many different lives. But yeah, from a current perspective of, the videos don't take off, the books don't don't pick up. There's two things I've been like flirting with. One is working at the airport. So I think that'd be pretty cool to work on the outside. I've seen that where you can use the machines outside and things like that. You could load the planes, unload the planes. You can marshal the traffic, marshal the planes coming in and out, all sorts of things. I think I could do that. And I did another video where I was nearly had an opportunity like that, maybe 2020. I think it's 2020, maybe 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I'd say, around that period. Between 5 and 7 years, should we say? I can't be exact with the dates. It might be 2018. I can't remember. It's around that period, between 2018 and 2020. At a local airport, like, because I used to live in Essex, and there was a local airport, and it was expanding, and they were looking for people to join them in the logistics side for cargo handling. So it's more for the cargo distributors. I can't remember what the company was now. It's a big company in UK. Stobart, I think, something Stobart. Can't remember. But yeah, I was interested, but the shifts just didn't allow because of the situation with my daughter and going through family court. And this is the other thing I'm talking about, all these experiences. I've had to go through family court, like a year and a half of trauma, and then the chaos that happens after that. And even the things before that happened, what led to it. It's like life is full of these experiences. It just molds your character, I always say you either sink or swim. But I just think some experiences are there to just like elevate us really. And like I say, I think especially in career. So I nearly worked at an airport. I literally went through a first phase, and then I was supposed to go to something else, and then it was like in the end I had to just decline it. But it's like think about the experiences that come from that. So I am open to it. I have recently applied for some roles. It would literally cost me more to do the job than I'd get, I think, realistically, because of the fuel that would be required. It's 100. It would be like 50 miles each way. I think 50 miles. I think it's about 50 miles each way. So that's 100 miles. I think it's an hour each way. A lot of fuel, you know. So I don't know about like how much financially responsible that would be if you got the role. It's an experience, isn't it? So I'm thinking, okay, maybe you don't have a lot of money spare after bills, or well, hopefully it covers the bills at least. But goddamn, your life would be fun, wouldn't it? I think that'd be cool. Like, I'd be excited to go to work, wouldn't you? Like, that's how I want to feel, though. I just want to feel excited about life. And I like if it comes at a cost, it comes at a cost. That's how I live my life. I'm so different to everybody else. You know, you put money on a string in front of me and ask me to freaking be a sheep. I'm not going to do it. It doesn't fulfill me. Like, I'd love to have money doing what I do. Of course, that'd be beautiful. Then I could have. It'd be nice to have luxury items. It'd be nice to be able to treat myself to things and those closest to me. It'd be nice to have other experiences where I can have more holidays and travel a lot and have that freedom to travel. You know, where you got the time to yourself. If you like manage to do things in your own way, you know, so you're not working for someone, that'd be really nice. Again, that's another experience in life that maybe some of us will get to do, some won't. Um, but you know, it shouldn't come at a cost. And for me, it's like things have to be happening naturally. But like I say, I'm more than happy to just go and work at an airport, you know, and do do things around that if an opportunity comes. In the meantime, I'm happy enough just to jump on various different forklifts, um, and just go through the motions within that because it's as long as time moves forward, you know, I enjoy driving in general, so I'm interested in that. The other thing I was like flirting with, I don't think I'll ever get to because I think the time it would take to train for it, become experienced at it, and get to be like great at it, I think it would just be a bit too time consuming considering the path I'm on. I think my path leads me away from a task like that. But if I didn't have other career skills, if I didn't have my ability to communicate like I do, if I wasn't able to articulate it in the written word through my books and other things like that, because you see what I mean, you can't be everything. I mean, if you want to stretch yourself, you could, but I'd rather be great at one thing, you know, or have an experience here and experience there. But I don't want to commit like the next 5, 10 years to that when I've got my focus is this. But I was thinking about like HGV driving because I think, you know, I like my now this is where it's going to make you seem deluded, but it's not. It's I like my driving simulators on my computer and stuff, and one of them is trains. I mean the truck driving. You got America and Europe, but it's not that. I recognise that's a simulator. It's a game per se, but there is a level of handling and logistics within it, you know. And you think, and it's using your mirrors, checking. You can see how far the trailer is. You can understand it. I don't think personally. Of course, I've been in a lorry cab. You know, I was doing wheel spins on this freaking lorry cab on the docks as I was trying to because they were just trying to get them. We didn't have a trailer on the back. They just wanted the trucks, the lorries, on the ship because they were getting. I don't know where they were going. Probably Nigeria, like most of it was going. Um, and they literally just said, anyone want to go trying to get them on the truck, even if you haven't got experience. And I didn't understand the gears because they had too many gears. And no one gave me training. I was just thrust into this lorry cab and I was doing this wheel spin trying to get up this thing and I got water either side. That was quite traumatizing. And you are really high up. But I think it's like one of those things you can get used to it. So I think the idea that people might turn around and say, oh, you know, I'm not saying it wouldn't be hard and complicated, but I don't see how it's any more complicated for you than it is for me, you know? It's not going in with naivety. It's just sometimes I think confidence comes across as naive, especially if you're basing it off of something else. But I've seen videos of people doing it all, and I like, you know, I like going for random drives anyway, like road trips and stuff. So it's like you get paid just to travel. I think that's not a bad job, is it? Now I understand the intricacies with it, and I can see how tight some of the turns are, the loads, and all that. The only thing that puts me off it completely, like not puts me off completely. The only thing that would put me off is the fact that the loads change all the time. And I understand if you've got like a liquid load, for instance, that's an unstable load. So you've got to be careful of that because managing the stability of it. But also, it's like if your curtains are open, for instance, you're doing these other loads, maybe the wind can catch it. You've got to consider how physics work. That's what it is. It's not a case if you're just driving. I understand the loads can be quite dynamic and challenging. Then, of course, you could have blowouts on your tires. So there's always a challenge to overcome, and you're not always in control. Like, for instance, you work for a company, you do whatever the loads they're asking you to do. Obviously, it has to be safe, but still, the loads will vary, and you are responsible for the load, of course. Um, so yeah, I just think it's if I didn't have other sides to me, I think I could see myself going through the training for something like that, and then just and I wouldn't mind doing it for a bit. But because I've got other sides to me, that would be time consuming to level up and train to do that. But that was that. If, yeah, if I was looking at a different career path and I didn't have other aspirations, that's something I'd think about. So my whole point here is just to open people's eyes really to the fact that there are other industries to go in. There's other experiences to have. And the way I see it is it's almost like an evolution, an elevation of what's already happened before. I started my warehousing situation in like a cash and carry. So it's like warehouse slash retail. So you're dealing with customers, but you're also dealing with like the warehousing side, really, with the stock and getting used to the equipment, like basic equipment. Then I went to distribution centers, and you started to realize how frantic it can be, but how organized it was, the organized chaos. And then you just different sides of the business, from the stock coming in goods in. So deliveries coming in, getting processed, and then you're picking it, and then it's getting sent to goods out, and it's getting dispatched or packed, whatever the hell's happening over there, depending on the business. Um, and there's a whole process in between, of course, and you're starting to see it on a bigger scale. And then I went to another distribution center for a supermarket. That was a huge one. And one day they just said, "Is anyone interested in training for a reach forklift?" I've never done a forklift, but I'll give it a go. A lot of people I think start on the counterbalance. It's for simpler. I started on the reach, which is more technical. But once you've done that one, I think you can do most of them, to be honest. And it was like I was doing that. I took to it like a duck to water. I enjoyed it. And then a lot of people were leaving that job to go to the dock. That's how I ended up at the port. I wasn't interested at first. I thought I'd stay here, but I realized everyone was going that I was friends with, I got on with. And it's like, this is going to be a different place when they leave. And I'll have a look. It paid more. It was a great opportunity. So I applied for that. And this is where we talk about experiences. If I was older, I'd have had an even different experience because the directors of the company, because the recruiter, the HR person, said that they'd seen my resume, my CV, and they wanted to interview me for a supervisor role. Now, bit stupid of me, but then I think if you can't handle it or you're not ready, I think it's fine. Like, there's no point saying you should have done something before you could. Like, I wasn't in that mindset. I was reluctant to leave the previous job, let alone jump here, let alone go then above everybody I was working with. I weren't interested in that. I just wanted to do what everybody else was doing. So I said I'd rather just do what I applied for, and they said that's absolutely fine. And I got the role, and that was an incredible experience. This is why I just try to really. I'm not trying to boast in any way. This isn't just like I don't think it's much to be boasting about. It's just life, you know but I had that taste of what it was like to work at the docks. Now, I thought the job was a little bit dangerous at times because they were going to teach us to use tugs to move containers, and we was going to bring them off the ships and stuff, move them around the yard and trailers and all sorts. That was an extension of what we was going to do. But we was brought in just to use the forklift, the counterbalance forklift. So it was the first time we used counterbalance, obviously past that. And then it was this clamp attachments, which most people wouldn't have experience of. So it's like paper reels for the newspaper industry. So they're like, some of it like ranges up about 5 tons, and they're huge. And when they slip, like they can slip, but it's just suction really, just trying to get it in place. They're just, and then if it slips, and it bang. That's a big bang on the floor and damage to a lot of expert money. Yeah, and then there was like fit tasks to do around the port while we was waiting because it was a new build. So we were still waiting for a lot of things to happen in the warehouse. We got to go around the yard. Then we started to put banger cars. When I say banger cars, like minivans, just random cars, all sorts of stuff. We was just picking them up from a yard, driving them onto a ship. You'd have to pack them really in. You have to climb out the window because you're trying to get as many cars on this ship as possible. Um, that was like incredible experience. And it's from leaving that role that was a safety net, which a lot of people would have stayed at, allowed me the freedom to go and experience all these other things. And in the end, it was just consuming me. I was only like younger, I don't know, like 24. And I was working at one time. I started to work at 6, didn't finish till 9 because I was just being greedy with the overtime. You learn your lessons. I was told to go home because you shouldn't be here this long because you're starting again at 6. And I was burning myself out, which makes you resentful. But there was like, I felt it was dangerous the way these containers were the tugs were getting the containers into the building because there was a certain section where we would walk from tea break. And I just felt someone might get killed one day doing that. And I thought, I don't want to operate that. So from my, yeah, so I left. That's in terms of money, that's a really stupid decision, of course. Later on, I actually come back to the dock from a completely different job, and it was just through an agency. But it was like to work with Hyundai's. I think it's Hyundai. I think it was, yeah, Hyundai. And they had like three different yards on the dock on the port. One was just outside, and a minivan minibus thing would pick maybe four. We'd have about 4 or 5 of us, and we'd all get in a minivan, and it would drop us off with the keys to different ones. They go, oh, your one's this one, your one's that one, your one's that one. Then the minibus would drive off, and then you'd have to drive. And sometimes you couldn't start the car, or there's an issue, and you're like, crap, I'm stuck. But you end up figuring it out somewhere because they don't show you all the functions in the car, and have people to know different cars, different functions. Especially those keyless ones, I wasn't sure about them. You have to put your foot on the brake and all sorts. But anyway, I'm not sure if they were keyless at the time. But yeah, so we'd just get dropped off by brand new Hyundais, whether it's like the SUV versions, whether it's the coupes, whether it's just a normal car. That was so nice. Brand new cars, literally driving around the port, and then we'd put it onto the final yard area where the transport carriers would pick them up. You'd have to just put them in a certain queue. Um, that was like probably that's one of my favourite jobs, and it didn't pay enough. I think it's like minimum wage, and I was having to drive quite far, similar to my mindset with this airport thing. But I just think these are the experiences you have, though. Like that's a memory I have. And some people might think, oh, that'd be a cool job. It's like, yeah, but sometimes you got to sacrifice that. You're gonna have to sacrifice a bit of money to have an experience. I love that experience. I'll always remember that. That will always stay with me. Like it didn't pay me very well at all, but goddamn, I had fun. It'd be nice to have fun at work, no? Of course, since then, I've had all these other jobs and other different places I've been to. And like I say, I've got so many different forklifts now. Again, this isn't boasting, it's just telling my experience. I'm probably missing some as well. So I've done bendy, which is the equivalent of a flexi forklift. I've got reach forklift. I've got counterbalance with electric, gas, diesel. I've got the forks and clamp attachments, side loader, with doing window frames and all sorts. And you learn these at different places. So I'm like, if you look at it from the HGV, let's say it was a HGV lorry, I've learned pretty much most of, if not all, of what you could within logistics side of handling the products, loading and unloading the products. And if you was to drive the lorry, you've literally gone the extra step to now you're actually distributing it and driving it from location to location. Wouldn't that be cool? But I don't know if my path. I don't know if my path needs me to go to that extreme. But yeah, I think the experiences we have can be quite incredible. Maybe you don't realize it in the moment. But you'll find some, like I said, the equivalent of that, though, the alternative is that some people will just stay in their comfort zone their whole life. They'll follow the money and they'll give up any experiences that potential experiences because money meant everything to them. Because that's what people tell you. If you don't have money, you're a waste of space. If you don't have enough, you're not worth their time. That's how some people perceive life, and I just think you've lost sight of reality completely. You've just been corrupted, unfortunately. Money's an illusion of happiness. If you do things you love and you live a life that you truly appreciate and it's balanced, money can elevate it beyond measure, of course. But don't let it don't let it corrupt you and turn you into something you shouldn't be or you're not. And I think it's also about humility. It's not about don't use money to elevate yourself above others. You can actually help and support others with it too. So if I have money in the future and I'm doing well for myself, I have no reason to just hoard it. I don't want to turn myself into a mini bank. I'd rather do things where I know I'm helping. So if I see someone and I genuinely feel they deserve support, and I'm in a position where I have that luxury, then I'd rather spend it on that than to buy 5 cars. And that's the point with money, isn't it? You buy so much, and then it's like, what more do you really need? Like, is it just filling a void? If it's filling a void, you go ask yourself what you're trying to fill. And sometimes it's like your happiness. Money's an illusion. Won't buy your happiness. It can elevate your life if you're already happy. It won't replace misery, though. It just don't. It's temporary. That's why people go on spending sprees all the time. They can't stop this online shopping. Trying to fill a void. But anyway, it's worth looking at our lives and just think about the things you want to experience in this lifetime. And if it's going to take maybe a period of instability, it's going to be a bit of upheaval. At least you give yourself a chance to experience it, though, don't you? And that's how I live. So I live my life different to the majority. Don't have regrets though. Always do things for like the best of intentions. I don't set out to try to hurt anyone. Sometimes the things I say may trigger people. It may hurt them. Um, but yeah, I'm all about elevation, always moving forward, and I'll give most things a go. Um, and we'll see how it goes. You can't expect to be um, like experienced or great at something initially. You're gonna grow into it. It's the same like with the video content. If I look back maybe 5, 10 years ago, even maybe 3 years ago, how I present myself on camera would be different than what I am now. My way to articulate, um, it would just be different. And it's like we grow into situations. There may be a time when maybe a public speaking becomes something I do, and I've not really got any fears with that. It's just I would assume the first time won't be as great as later on because it may be overwhelming. It may not be organized. It may not be structured. The one thing I would say when it comes to speaking, and this is where I've elevated myself too, there will still be blips, but I do notice a lot of other people, especially in like sports and entertainment industry, when people stop to think a lot of the time, and it's consistent, especially when you put under pressure in an interview, people have a habit of going um 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 and it happens all the time. Once you notice it, it triggers you. It's all the time. It's so unprofessional. So when you're talking, it's really important, I think, just to take a few seconds. If you've got to think about something, just pause. You pause your mind for a moment while you think. Don't murmur and then speak, and then you've articulated and presented better than the average person. Because the average person will start going uh, uh. It's like it just sounds poor. That's your mind trying to think, but you're making noise while you're thinking. You're better off just doing it calmly. Just stop talking. It's really, and you'll find the pause itself is not as long as you think it is in your head. Again, this is an elevation of communicating, and I think for the most part, I've mastered it to a level. So all the things that maybe I think I might look into in the future, that's really if other sides of my life sort of don't come together and elevate. But I don't think they're huge elevations of where I've been. I think the biggest elevation of where I've been is going to be through my creative capacity, because who knows what I can't even dream of what could happen from it. But I think the ability to have a positive impact on people's lives is what drives me forward with it. Like I know I can help people, and I think I can help people more than when I'm on a forklift, for instance. That's why sometimes I get really fed up because I'm like I'm being restricted here. If only I could reach the people that need to be helped, I know I could help them. So let me help them. And that's where I see my life. And I'm not, so that's why like, I don't necessarily know how that's going to play out. And like, if anyone watches my journey, you'll know I'm not a yes man. I won't just agree to anything. Even if I'm down, even if it seems like I'm down and out, I won't be an easy target for someone. So I won't be exploited. It's not going to happen. So I will think everything through. And someone may give me what someone perceives as an incredible opportunity that they would never turn down. It may be something that I'm like, nah, I don't think that's going to work for me. And it may be something that in the future you look back and think, I could have done that. But then sometimes you just got to go by your gut reactions as well. Like, how do you feel about it, you know? So it won't be a case of I just agree to everything. Like I've just said, if someone tries to sponsor me or endorse something and it's like I get a lot of money from it, if I don't support the product, I won't do that to people. I just refuse. I see people all the time with these branding on it, like they wear a baseball cap or they wear a shirt or they just got something, all because they're getting money from it. And I don't doubt they're getting an awful lot of money from it. But I'm not, you never see me sell out like that. If I'm endorsing a product, it's because I like the product. This is Superdry. I'm not endorsed by Superdry, but goddamn, I love Superdry. So I'll promote Superdry. So you see what I mean? Like, so if Superdry was to offer me a promotional deal to promote their products, hell yeah, I love your products. So it wouldn't be me selling out; it'd be me taking an opportunity, if that's a possibility, to make money off of something I support naturally because they're part of something I like. If it's a different brand that I don't use, why would I promote it unless I like the product? That's the thing. So yeah, you wouldn't get me selling out for anything. But then that's just where my morals are, you know. I think different. Makes my life harder for sure. But I'm open to experiences, and I just think there's so much. It gets demoralizing sometimes. I don't doubt that. If you see my journey, you know how fed up I get. But there's still so much more of life to live. I want to travel more. This is so far. It's all just been about career. If you talk about love and romance, that's the one thing. Like, I'm quite open in terms of the career I could have, the opportunities, the places I go. I don't keep myself stagnant, so people maybe see it flaky. But I look at all the places I've been, all the experience I've had, and I think it's been great. So I don't care. I don't want to box myself in. But when it comes to love and romance, I'm the opposite. So although I want all those experiences with relationships, I don't want lots of experiences. I just want someone I see that as your safe space. For me, I'm more of a romantic, I think, than I give myself credit. And it's not something where I want many partners. I don't want chaos in my life, and too many partners breeds chaos. I don't need that. That's not who I am at all. So I'm just looking for someone who I can absolutely build a life with. And that's my stable footing. That's where we trust each other, and we're literally building a foundation for the rest of our lives. And that's what I'm more like. I know some people don't like commitment, but I am commitment. So yeah, within that side of my life, yeah, I'm not interested in a tally sheet of how many people you've been with and all that shit. That don't interest me at all. That's not. That's pointless. It's effectively I don't intend to disrespect myself or someone else. So I have high standards in that side. But again, that's just me personally. I don't judge other people if they want to jump around, do shit. I'm not interested in violating who I am or my energy and shit. You know, again, I just want stability in that sense. Um, yeah. So there's that. And then there's the travel side. I want to travel a lot more. I spent a lot of my time not traveling my life. Um, really finances and really, I think just looking at life a different way, thinking the cost of all that, is it worth it for such short gains? But now I realise that, of course, those experiences are the things that you do remember deeply and profoundly, and I think they do change your life. So I do want to travel more on holidays and experience more of the world, but I am very aware of the dangers around the world. So I have high standards in my life in general anyway. So I won't go to places where there's human rights issues. I'm not interested in being a martyr and all that shit. You could argue your presence. Like, let's say you was famous or popular one day. Your presence there could make a difference. It's like it could, but it could also cause more issues than it's worth. And it's not really for me to be the savior of different countries. I mean, countries have to learn the lessons themselves as well. And it's like I'm not going somewhere where I don't respect. I don't want to say the culture, but the rules. I wouldn't say culture at all because I think diversity is really important. I think we can learn a lot from each other. But I think when you enter a country, you are bound by their laws. And if I don't agree with their laws, then I'm not prepared to enter their country. And it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to enter a country where I don't respect their law. It's not saying I want to abide by. So I won't get to see the whole world. And some cultures won't naturally align with me either. But you respect the way they live, but it doesn't align with me, then that's fine. So if we talk about like China, for instance, the way the food they eat in general, I don't think I could get on there for that reason alone. I don't eat bugs. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the footage. Again, I'm not disrespecting, but they see it like we see donuts. They see a scorpion. It's like that. There's no way I can't. That's too different to who I am. Maybe one day there'll be an experience and there'll be an opportunity, and I'll see some other side of things beyond that. But I do think sometimes we do have cultural differences. And I think this is okay. That's okay. I think sometimes you say something and people get bent out of shape. And it's like, why have we always got to act like everything's conflict? It's just like we're different. Let's just accept that we're different. There's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I'm more interested at this period of my life to just experience more of Europe, closer to home, because I think there's this romanticized feeling, and I think I don't know if it happens around the world where things seem better the further away they are. So I'm sure Americans, for instance, if they think about like a holiday they would love to have, it may be they would look to Europe because it's so far away. It's not close, so it seems like really hard to have. So they want it, and I think that's what we do. So a lot of time people go far afield for holidays, and I just can't help think how beautiful Europe is. The culture is diverse because you've got all these different language barriers, but each nation has its own way of living, and I think there's something that's quite beautiful about that. And the fact that it's local, more local to me, is just an added benefit, isn't it? So why do we always look to like at the USA and stuff and think, oh, we want to go there? Now, USA is like its own continent. It's literally got everything there, isn't it? From the east coast to the west coast, from the south, again. But at the moment, with the situation going on in America, I mean, I consider it a bit of a human rights issue where I'm not traveling there for that specific reason. I don't consider it a safe place for anyone traveling at the moment. But anyway, that's my take on travel. I want to see more of the world. I'm open to career opportunities. I'm open to different things. I think it's not about, we shouldn't just pigeonhole ourselves. And it's also, don't limit ourselves just because someone else tries to make you feel inferior, because people do that all the time. They always want to seem like they're the best at something or you're not good enough. It's like, if you can do it, I can do it. It's just how committed am I to learn? That's all it comes down to. For most of us, you can do that. Think about it. Some people get intimidated by driving, just getting a driving license, because it can be complicated, especially when you first get in the car. You don't, especially manual cars like in the UK. It's like complicated at first. You keep stalling the car. You don't understand the clutch. Some people don't explain it properly. I don't think my trainer truly explained it until I saw somewhere else, and it was kind of like, you look at it as a weighing scales. The more pressure you put on the pedal, the clutch, and then the accelerator will come off. So you start applying pressure on the accelerator, then you can start coming off the clutch. As soon as you get past the biting point, all of a sudden it's moving, come off the clutch, and you go. It's like, you just got to look at it like that. But again, I couldn't help but look when I was younger, looking, thinking, well, if other people can drive a car and they don't look the most intelligent without being rude, then I could drive a car. I can do that. So that's what I do. I tend to watch people and think, if you can do it, I can do it. I'm not saying it's easy, but I have the capacity to learn. Um, and I'm aware of the obstacles, the dangers, the challenges. Like I just said with the HGV thing, I don't think the maneuvering would be my biggest problem. Although I think backing it up looks complicated. I think you learn it. It becomes an art and a skill, doesn't it? Once you've mastered it, you've mastered it. So now all of a sudden you know the distances, you know the turning circles, you know all that, you know the pivot points, all these things, and then you can do it because it's not much different to everything else. But I don't doubt there's an art and a skill to that. But for me personally, the thing that worries me with that is just the loads, because you are responsible for that load. And if something happens, you're responsible, of course. And it's your driving license at risk as well on the road. And it's like, do you want to risk your driving license for a job? Because that affects your daily life. So there's all these little nuances, of course. But anyway, something to think about. I don't want to ramble any further than I have. It just come up with me. I just thought, experiences, good topic. Yeah, I think it's a good topic. So yeah, I'm interested. I've applied for a few roles, even though, like, realistically, I think the one I've got in the bank at the moment is the forklift one. And that'd be 4 on 4 off. Again, this is a new experience. I've never done 4 on 4 off. I was always rigid about needing my weekends off. Not really liking to work evenings, but I prefer to work mornings. But now I'm getting a bit fed up with getting up so early. If there's no reward for it, let's say you work Monday to Friday, but you only do morning shifts. You have to get up at like 4, half 4 in the morning because your shift starts at 6 or something. If you finish work at 2, maybe 3, depending on what your pattern is. But you're actually burnt out because of how early you got up. So now you're actually really tired all day when you get home. It's not really enjoying yourself, because realistically, if you just did a normal shift pattern, maybe 8 or 9 a.m., and you finished at maybe 4 or 5 p.m., yeah, you finished later, but you didn't rush out of bed. So now you're not so tired. So now it's actually more balanced. It's all these little things. But I always found if 5 days a week, I always think it's just not fair, because you literally go into Saturday sort of healing from the week you've just had. So you finally get into some like rest, or you sometimes you're busy, but you're not yourself. And then Sunday you're just preparing to get up ready for work for Monday. So literally your whole weekend is preparing and ending the previous week and the new week. Everything's geared around based on work, and it's quite depressing, especially if you don't truly enjoy what you're doing. But anyway, even if you do, it's still exhausting. So this one's 4 on 4 off, but it's 12-hour shifts. So the days are going to be really hard. So literally, I just see it as you grind out those days, and then you've literally got 4 days of freedom, whereas most people only get 2 days of rest and have to work 5. So it's like you do 4 days of long shifts, but then you're getting 4 full days off. And then you do 4 full shifts, then you got 4 days off again. I think it's something quite beautiful about that. Yeah, that's an option, but that's a new experience. So yeah, it's pushing ourselves sometimes outside our comfort zone. But I think I don't think it's always about just pushing outside our comfort zone, although it's expanding our minds. What is possible? what can I accomplish? Because I see it all the time in people's comments on different videos, and someone will say, "Oh, I'd love to be able to do that." It's like, well, you can. What tells you you can't? It's like if you wanted to do, you want maybe you want maybe you've seen videos or TV series, and it's working on a farm, and you think, "Oh, that'd be cool. I'd like to work on a farm. I'd love to live on a farm." Let's say you had that mindset. I'd love to live on a farm. Well, if you love to live on a farm, why not go work on a farm? There'd be jobs going to work on a farm. Again, people don't think like that because they follow mainstream. They follow the crowd a lot of the time, and people find themselves pigeonholed in really boring manufacturing roles and all sorts of shit. And it's like, for me, that's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. I need a bit more freedom. Um, so anyway, there's jobs out there, there's opportunities, there's different careers. It's just sometimes you may have to just travel a little. What's wrong with traveling a little? The job I did recently, I went to for the interview, is 40 minutes, and I thought that's going to be a lot in petrol, like fuel. I thought that's going to be, is it worth it? The cost. It pays a little bit more than what I would have got somewhere else, but with the travel, that's going to cost me in fuel. And then I was thinking about it after, and I thought, okay, it costs you in fuel. Maybe it costs, instead of £30 a week in fuel, you're paying £60 a week. It's not that big a difference. Like, not ideal, but it's not that big a difference, and you're getting paid a little bit more anyway. So, and then I was thinking the travel journey. Okay, let's say it's 40 minutes to get there. Let's say it would take 15, 20 minutes to get somewhere else anyway. Okay, so now it's took you 15, 20 minutes longer. You actually get to see the countryside and stuff. Well, that's nice. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, sometimes you have to just change your mindset a little bit. It's from the negative to look at the positive. Okay, it's a road trip. It's a road trip through the countryside. And it's only costing a little bit more than it would have anywhere else. So it's not that bad. Yeah, okay, you got to leave a little bit earlier. Maybe get home slightly later. Not too big a difference. Yeah, okay, that ain't so bad. But that's sometimes how we've got to think. And then all of a sudden, if you can think like that, all of a sudden your opportunities are better, aren't they? Instead of like thinking of like a little radius of a circle where you can work, all of a sudden you've expanded your horizons a little bit more, and maybe even relocate. That's a bit extreme, of course. Not everybody can. It's not that easy, but there is the potential for that, isn't there? If the career isn't where you are, then maybe it's look towards a different life because you're going to spend a lot of time at work. Try and find a way to be happy. But anyway, this is me just talking about experiences. It's not to say I'm perfect. I make mistakes, believe me. Well, yeah, I make mistakes. What people would perceive as mistakes, I don't consider it mistakes, to be honest. That's not me not taking accountability. It's just my values and what I want in life differ from what other people want. Yeah, I want money, but not at the expense of everything in my life. I think what it is, I've been through enough misery in my life, enough struggles, enough hardships, people mistreating me, taking me for granted, even in workplaces, to the point where I just refuse to make myself miserable anymore. So my threshold for like a tolerance level for toxic environments, poor quality people, it's just I don't have a tolerance for it anymore. I'm far more comfortable being financially unstable than I am being in the wrong environments. That's what it comes down to. So when I make decisions that maybe other people don't agree with, it might seem reckless and you'll regret that. I regret losing the money. Of course, I'd love to have the money, but the money comes with the sacrifice of the other thing. It's attached to it. So I don't regret leaving, but it would have been nice to have the money. If you're asking me whether I regret overall, no, because there was no other option. The only option was to keep myself miserable just to sustain the income. Well, that wasn't a viable option. That's why I left. You can't have it both ways. Sometimes you're just going to have to take the instability and give yourself a chance to experience something new, and eventually find the things that make you happy. And sometimes you're going to go for a few bad eggs before you get there, and I understand that. I may walk into 10 workplaces and go, "Nah, that's not for me." I'll walk out. Maybe people gossip about you after you left, or you only lasted a day, or you only lasted a week. I couldn't give a shit what they're talking about after I've gone. Think what you want. You don't know the reasons I left. You don't know what I've got planned for the future. You don't know where my dreams are. You want to keep yourself miserable. I don't. So I will keep moving until I find the places that make me happy. And then when I find my happiness, people will start thinking, "Oh, it's all right. It's easy for you." It ain't easy for anyone. We've just got to push ourselves outside our comfort zone and it's like set yourself a target. What do you want to make yourself happy, and what experiences do you want to have? I don't really want miserable experiences too much, so I don't want to keep myself miserable. It's simple. Let's make life a bit more exciting.